Welcome back to another video, guys, and first of all, happy Easter. So I've just started my 2-week Easter holidays, which is always a brilliant time because the Easter holidays are one of my favorites because the weather's just getting nice, the sunshine's coming out, it's getting a bit warmer. As you can see, I'm outside in a t-shirt, which I have, obviously you can see, done a bit of insulation in the shed, but it's not the best in the world, and so when it is cold out here, it is cold. I'm normally a jumper, but I'm outside in a t-shirt, and it's really nice to get the sun out, get outside for a bit, get some walking done, breathe the fresh air, and you know what, looking forward to 2 weeks off school. Well done if you guys have also made it to Easter. Hopefully if your placements have gone well, your university term's gone well. If you're a teacher already, then your term has gone well, your spring term, and you're looking forward to a nice break, a nice bit of relaxation ahead of summer. Today we're talking about things specifically for university students, and they're the kind of things that I wanted to not warn you about your teacher training, but just make you aware of, because there are some things that sometimes you're not always the most aware of when you do your training, and I know I wasn't, and actually it can help you kind of work more efficiently when you're at university if you know these things, and if you kind of think, actually, you know what, is that something that I really need to put all my time into, or can I actually focus on this because that will be useful when I come to be an actual teacher, and I've qualified as an early career teacher pretty soon. So yeah, happy Easter, guys, if you're watching this around Easter, and if you're not, then as always, thanks for all the support, thank you for commenting, any questions you've got, thank you for liking the videos, thank you most of all for subscribing, and I will always put out new videos every Tuesday, every Friday, and every Sunday. So today we have got things they didn't tell you on teacher training, and we're going to start off with the fact that some of what you will learn will be absolutely useless. And that sounds like a big statement, but it is sadly quite true, and that's because schools do things so differently. I think some of the things I do in my school, my wife's school would not accept at all, and they do things completely different. Some things in my wife's school that is done is not done in my school and would not be accepted in my school, and that's the same for the placements I did. I worked in 3 different schools while I was at university, and the things I did there, some of which were very useful and are brilliant, and I still practice today, but some of it I did not do at all, and when I did it at placement, I was like, oh yeah, this is really good, I'm going to put all my effort into learning this, and now I don't even use it at all. Some examples of that are just things like assessment systems, okay? So people use all sorts of different assessment systems. They use all sorts of different systems to gather data, different ways of assessing what children have done, different ways of checking each year group, how people are getting on, how the children are getting on, and the fact is, it's really important to know what level is expected for the end of each year group. So at the end of year 3, where do children need to be? At the end of year 4, where do children need to be? That is really important, because really there's only really a check at the end of year 2 and the end of year 6 for SAT. So the more knowledge you can get about what is expected in each year group, the better, but don't put all your time into learning the systems that your school uses on placement unless you're planning on staying at that school when your placement finishes, because the systems that are in place at that school will be completely different from many other schools. They will all have their own ways of doing things, and when you get to that school, you'll have to integrate yourself into that school's way of working and see how they do it and start working with that system too. So make sure that you're putting all your effort into learning about the expectations of children due from the national curriculum and what's expected of them in that year group, and not worrying too much about the precise systems that the school uses to record that data and to mark it down. The same thing with things like marking policies, behaviour policies, feedback policies. Make sure that you're following the one that works for your school, but don't put everything into learning that one off by heart and learning those policies off by heart, because I will guarantee you that other schools will do things completely differently, and you never know where you're going to end up as a teacher. It might be worth, if you really want to stay at that school and you think there will be a vacancy coming up, to learn those systems off by heart and to know what to do. But actually, as long as you're following them to the letter that they say while you're there on placement, that is good enough. And make sure you're getting the grips with how to do it and how to manage your time efficiently, rather than necessarily worrying about what the exact system is. The next thing to remember is about professionality. Now, it is very important to you guys when you're on your placements to be professional at all times and really show off those teaching standards, that you're following them to the letter, especially part 2, which is the professional part, and to show that you are capable of being in charge of a group of children in school. However, that professionality can sometimes be a bit over pushed on the students at university, and I do know why they do it. I do know because, you know, majority of the students on the course will be 18 years old, and you're on a professional course, and it is kind of a big change, especially if you've not been used to kind of a structured environment for the last however many months while you've been off on summer holidays. But it is also something that, yeah, is definitely over pushed sometimes at university. Put in all you can, but being professional does not mean staying at school till 6-7 o'clock at night every night. It does not mean that if you don't turn up to school at ridiculous o'clock in the morning, then you're not being professional. You need to basically make sure that on your course, on your placement, whoever your mentor is, you're basically following what they say, because your mentor's the person that's going to be judging you guys, and different mentors will have different ideas of what professionality is. You will have a different idea of what being professional is, and the school you end up teaching at will have a different idea of what being professional is. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that to be professional, you need to be at school from 7 o'clock till 5 o'clock at night, or you need to be at school from 6 o'clock till 4 o'clock. There is no set time to show that you're working hard during a school day. I'm also not going to say that to be professional, you have to do this, this, and this, and this, because that's also not true. And sometimes universities kind of push these things on you and say you must do this to be professional, to be a professional student, to be a professional teacher. It's just simply not true. The fact is, you're on the course to qualify as a teacher, and when you get to your school, they will have a set way of working that you'll kind of integrate yourself into, and hopefully it'll be a good fit for you, because it'll be a good fit as a school for you. But you do need to make sure that you're passing your course. So the best thing I'm going to say in terms of being a professional teacher is to make sure when you start going on placements and you sit down with your mentor and have a meeting, talk to them about what they expect of you. What are the things you need to do to hit your targets to pass your placement? And they're the things you need to do, all right? They're the kind of targets you need to hit. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. It doesn't matter what anyone else does. If you're doing the things your mentor wants you to do, then you're going to pass your course. And that might sound obvious. They might sound really straightforward. You'll be surprised if you talk to different people on your placements and different students on your course. Different mentors will have very different ideas of what's expected. And now that might sound unfair to you if your mentor has very, very high standards and other mentors set their bars lower. And that was what happened on my course. Some people had to jump through all sorts of hoops to get through their placements, and other people had a lot lower standards to hit. I was somewhere in the middle, which worked out well for me, and I enjoyed all my mentors that I had, so I worked well with them and it was fine. But it is something that you have to be aware of, and it might seem massively unfair if you're one of those people that has those massive standards to hit. If you're hitting those standards and your mentor's happy, then you'll pass your placement and you'll become a teacher. And it's a bit like doing your GCSEs. Your GCSEs are so important at the time when you're doing them, but once you move on to A-levels, well, they don't really matter anymore, because then your A-levels are so important. But once you've got those A-levels, they don't really matter, because now you're at university and you need to get your degree. That's the point you're at the minute, and your degree is everything. It is really, really important to get that degree to become a teacher. But once you're in a teaching job, your degree doesn't really matter. If I ever do end up moving schools, and I don't plan to at the minute, but if it does happen, I'm not going to really show off everything I did on my course. I will mention I've got a university degree in primary teaching. It will be on my CV. But I'm going to talk about the years of experience I've had. Now, at the minute, that's 4 years of experience. I don't plan on moving anywhere. So hopefully by the time I do end up having to move, if that is the case, I would have had 10, 15, 20 years experience teaching in a primary school, and I'll be able to talk about all of that. My university course that I did 20 years ago will not matter to me. I'll have it on my CV as a point of interest, but it'll be the years of experience in the primary school. That's what matters to me now. And so that's the same with your placements, all right? They are important. You do need to pass them, but talk to your mentor, find out what's expected, and do that. And that's where you put your time in, because that's what you need to do to pass to get onto the next placement, then the next one, and then finally into a primary school. The third thing we're going to talk about that isn't always mentioned to you on university placements is the fact that you are probably right now, if you're on placement, doing more paperwork than you ever will as a primary school teacher. Now, it's one of the things that put me off the most while I was doing my placements, and one of the things I struggle most with. You have a huge amount of paperwork to do. I don't know if it's the same at every university. I doubt it is, because I'm sure they'll do them differently. But when I was on my placements, I had to do a lesson review of every single lesson I taught. Now, that was on top of all my planning, that was on top of all the teaching, on top of all the marking, on top of all the feedback, on top of all the meetings with mentors and discussing what to do, on top of all my duties as a teacher, which by the end of your placements, you're doing about 80% of the teaching. So it's a fair old chunk of work you're doing, especially being new to it, so you're slower at it. And so once you actually get going on your real teaching, as in when you actually get your first teaching job, you will notice that actually your paperwork does drop. Now, there is reviews and things to do as a newly qualified teacher, or an early career teacher, as they call it now. There is extra paperwork to do as part of that, but it's not as much as you do at university, and then that drops off too. So if you can make it through university doing all the paperwork you have to do and all the reviews and all the form filling, then you will realise once you come to primary school and once you're an actual teacher, that reduces. That's not something I was ever told when I was at university, and it's one of the things I found hardest, because I really struggled with keeping organised, and it's something I've got better at since I was at university, but it was something I really worried about. And I was like, actually, if this is the way being a primary school teacher is, am I going to be able to keep up with it? If this is the way being what a primary school teacher is, am I going to be able to keep up with this on top of teaching a full class full time? And I didn't know if I could, and thankfully I took the risk. I kind of gambled, and I said, actually, you know what, I really enjoy doing the teaching, so I'm going to try it. And I realised when I started that actually there was less work to keep on top of in terms of the form filling and the paperwork, and so it all worked out all right. But I didn't know that when I first started, and I did take a bit of a gamble. So yeah, do keep ploughing on with the paperwork. You have to get it done. There's no kind of way of shortcutting it, but like we said earlier on about your mentor, If your mentor's happy with what you're doing, then you're happy because you're going to pass your placement and you'll become a primary school teacher. So they're my top 3 tips of things that you kind of need to watch out for and need to make sure you're working efficiently, all right? Because your university placements are really important. They're where you're going to do your most learning on your course. Like I've said in other videos, your lectures and your professors are full of knowledge, and sometimes that knowledge is amazing, sometimes maybe not so much. But when you're actually in the classroom teaching, learning strategies, thinking about what works, what doesn't work, and especially observing more experienced teachers than you. I love going to go observe teachers even now, and so do as much of that as you can when you're on placements, as well as obviously your own teaching practice, because it's really, really important, and that's where you're going to do your most learning. So enjoy your placements. If you're not necessarily enjoying all the paperwork, then plow through it, because it will reduce once you become a teacher. And as always, if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for all the support on this channel, and if you are watching this during these holidays, have a lovely Easter. Take some break, take some time out for yourself and your family, and I will see you all again very soon on a Tuesday, Friday and a Sunday.